Good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Board Evaluation and the Utilization of Technology. We're glad you could all join us today and hope you will find it useful. My name is Veronique Martial and I am part of the marketing team at Diligent. I am joined today by your speakers, Kais Garaibe, who is the Director of Middle East Business at Diligent and is based in our office in Dubai, as well as Dr. Ashraf Gamaleldin, who is the CEO of Haukama, the Institute for Corporate Governance. Thank you both for joining us today. Just a few general notes about today's session. This presentation will last about 20 to 30 minutes. This session will be recorded and everyone will receive a copy within the next few days. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar via the question window in your GoToWebinar panel. It's at the side of your screen, and we will try and get through most of them at the end of the presentation. Any questions we can't get to, we will follow up on individually. But now, Dr. Ashraf and Kais will say a few words to introduce Haukama and Diligent.
Thank you, Veronique, very much. This is Ashraf Gamal. Welcome on our webinar. Haukama, it's a corporate governance institute that was established in Dubai 11 years ago as part of improving the corporate governance climate in the region. Our objective is to bridge the gap between the world and the GCC countries and the MENA region in the area of corporate governance. We work with companies, regulators, banks, as well as international players in the area of governance. We were founded in collaboration with the OECD, the IFC, the World Bank, and many other regional institutions such as the IFC and the Union of Arab Banks. Our key objective is to try to improve the performance of companies in terms of corporate governance in the MENA region. And it's our pleasure to have you with us in this webinar. Over to you, Kais.
Okay, thank you. So just a bit of an introduction about Diligent. Diligent provides a software as a service for the board of directors. We deliver a board portal solution that enables the directors to receive content in a secured way related to the board meetings. We enjoy a relationship with over 5,000 customers globally and 140,000 board members use the service today. Our customers span across 72 different countries and we have 12 offices across the world, including Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. And we are 16 years in the business, so we have developed a strong reputation in delivering a reliable solution for the board of directors. What's also important to note is that the client retention rate for Diligent is 99%, and this is mainly driven by our exceptional level of service and, of course, the high security that we put on the Diligent solution.
Thank you very much for that. And before we start, I would quickly like to highlight what we will be covering within the next 20 minutes. So first, Dr. Ashraf will talk about why companies are doing evaluations, what types of evaluations there are, and he will explain what the benefits are of conducting them. In the second part, Kais will talk about the different tools and challenges when doing evaluations, as well as how technology solutions can be leveraged to be most efficient. At the end of the main session, we will address any questions that you may have. But now I would like to hand over to Dr. Ashraf.
Thank you, Veronique. Let's start first by asking a question, who should be concerned or who should be doing board evaluations? Now, our position in Haukama is that every company which has a board should really do board evaluations. And that's really part of responding to the pressures from various different groups that the company has to answer to. Now, previously, companies used to be concerned only with the shareholders, but currently companies have to answer to a larger group of stakeholders. So one way of responding to that is simply making some sort of healthy checks on the company and whether it is on the right track or not. And one way of doing this is board evaluation. So board evaluation is really a way to find out the company is on the right track, and also it's a way to improve corporate governance practices in companies in general. So every company with a board should really focus or try to do evaluations. There are countries which mandated corporate board evaluations, such as the UK and South Africa. So for listed companies there, they do have to do board evaluations. However, in the region, although regulations are really absent in the area of forcing or mandating board evaluations, but we, as Hawkama, we see more and more demand from companies and boards to do evaluations for them. We estimate the number of the percentage of companies which are doing it around 15%. So we see actually that despite that regulation is not there, but still boards are trying to benefit from evaluations. Next slide, please. Now, there are different types of board evaluations, different ways of looking at them. One way of looking at evaluation is really through three levels of evaluations. The first one is board evaluation, the second one is self-assessment, and the third one is the peer evaluation or peer assessment. Now, on the first one, board evaluations, and in that sort of evaluation, what we do is we try to evaluate the board as an entire unit. So we evaluate the board functioning in that respect. So we try to find out whether the board is totally in group is functioning properly or not. So this is one way of doing evaluation. The second one actually is self-assessment, which is director evaluation. Now, in this one, we allow directors of companies or of the board to evaluate their own performance. So they see then whether they are conducting their own responsibilities or not. They ask questions around the director involvement. For example, does the director regularly attend or participate in meetings of the board or the committees? Does he or she provide meaningful feedback or input, and so on? Or questions around fiduciary duties for the board. So does the director understand the legal obligations they have or not, and so on. So this is a self-assessment for every director. The third one is called peer assessment. Now, this one allows directors to have the opportunity to provide feedback on their peers anonymously. So in that respect, every director is asked to evaluate his or her colleagues in that respect and their performance for companies. So it is really quite a unique experience for the board to try for board members to assess each other in that respect. Next slide, please. What are the benefits? I mean, why we in Hawkama are advising boards and companies that they should have board evaluations? There are many benefits and advantages for companies of doing evaluations. The first one of them, which is the most important one, is the group culture. Now, this one, evaluation is actually allowing board and the committees to assess how they are doing, what is the impact that they are having on the company itself. Now, on the culture element, what's happening is we have questions such as, you know, do board members work well together or not? What is the quality of the board's relationship with the other stakeholders such as shareholders, government, employees, advisors, and so on. Now, these questions are designed so that to determine whether the board culture is conducive to productivity or not. Next slide, please. Now, the second benefit that we can get out of assessment is cohesiveness of the board. Now, here what we do is we ask question on the level of quality of participation in the board itself. Now, the questions here are designed to determine how well the board gels together and works together as a group. And we always say that actually the culture comes from the top. So if the board is able to work together as one team, this will reflect on the company performance after that. Next, please. Now, the third advantage of or benefit of having the board evaluation is composition of the board itself. Now, in this part, what we do is we ask questions regarding whether the board has the right people in place, whether the committees of the board have the right people in place or not. Do we have the right skills, experiences, backgrounds or not? Now, these questions are designed so that we determine whether the board currently lacks certain skills or experiences or knowledge that maybe in the future we should think of supplemented with more board members, or take into account at the next elections that we should add these people to the board. So this one, we understand the composition of the board and whether it's good or needs some improvement. Next, please. Now, the fourth benefit of the board evaluation is leadership. Now, in this one, what we try to do is, the question here is about the leadership of the board as well as the committee of the board. Now, of course, we know from governance practices that the leadership quality makes a big difference on the board and on the committees of the board. So in this one, we evaluate the board and whether the chairman of the board and the committees and whether they are the right people, are they doing the right job, or what are the areas of improvement we can have so that we can get the best out of the board and its committees. Next, please. Now, the fifth benefit of the board evaluation is the meeting and information processes. Now, here what we are trying to do is we are trying to evaluate whether the board is getting the right information in the right format, in the right time to make the right decisions or not. In many cases, we have seen from our experience in the region that some boards are not informed properly. The information they have is very sketchy information, incomplete information, or inaccurate information. And of course, this results in poor quality decisions and follow up on the management performance. Next, please. Now, the final benefit of the board evaluation is the governance policies evaluation. Now, here what we do is we try to ask questions such as, has the board created governance structures and practices that support the ability to govern effectively and objectively the company itself? So the questions here are designed to determine whether the board is practicing good governance as as a role model for the company or as leading by example for the company or not, and if not, then what are the areas in which we can improve the governance practice of the board in general. So these are very briefly the benefits of having evaluations. Now to you, Qais.
Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. What I would like to talk to you about is what are the best practices in conducting board evaluations. There are evaluation tools and there are certain challenges that you could face when conducting evaluations. For example, if you're using paper, it is usually difficult to manage and it's difficult to analyze the content. You have to convert it into a digital format, and then you will be able to eventually find a way to archive the content or the responses to those questionnaires. In certain other cases, you might want to resort towards using a PDF document or a Word document or even an Excel, send it to directors and have them respond to it, and then you would still have the task of converting everything into a format where you're able to do analysis on it, such as Excel. It's typically insecure, and it's of course time laborious for the administrators or the people who are preparing and managing those questionnaires. You usually would have some challenges in being able to put appendices. In certain cases, you want to be able to calculate averages, and the formulas have to be built by you. And of course, for good governance, you want to make sure that the directors are also signing the responses that they have provided you, and that becomes challenging unless there's a tool that enables you to do that. And finally, of course, directors will need to be supported in how they fill the questionnaires. Some might have some questions or clarifications, so you want to be able to provide that kind of support to them. The other point is, of course, doing the evaluations in-house versus using an outsource, for example, evaluation provider such as Hawkama in this case. And where is the right balance between, what's the frequency of doing in-house evaluations and what's the frequency in doing resorting to a third party. And we typically see, and this has been confirmed by Hawkama as well, is that outsourced evaluators are usually involved once every 3 years, or as per the regulation of audit that's required on the company, or as per the guidance from the stock exchange in publicly listed companies, for example. And typically we see the period is about 3 years from our experience. Now, in the meantime, you can still keep your finger on the pulse with regards to how the board is functioning by conducting more frequent evaluations using in-house practices, and for these you will need also to use tools. Next slide, please. Now, when you leverage technology in order to deliver better evaluations, you need to look for a tool that can encompass the following 3 main areas. 1, you want the tool to be intuitive in its design. 2, you want it to have the ability to generate for you detailed reporting. And 3, you want to be able to have seamless integration where possible to other systems that the directors are using, just to simplify the experience for them. Next slide. So when we look at intuitive questionnaire design, what do we mean by that? So you would want the application to be, or the tool to be highly customizable with lots of different options to build questions. You want it to be able to take you through a self-service wizard that enables you to structure the questionnaire in a meaningful way and to be able to address the needs that you have from delivering that questionnaire. The second thing is that you would like to, you would want to have the ability, you would want the questionnaire tool to be flexible in its design as well, so that it can give you different type of options for reporting and different ways to analyze the data. And the third part is also you want to enable the directors to access this questionnaire from any device, from anywhere they, wherever they are in the world, so that you don't disrupt the timelines by which you want to be able to complete these questionnaires. Next slide. This is just an example of a tool that Diligent has for building and delivering questionnaires, just to give you an idea of, you know, how intuitive you can build the interface and how simple and flexible the design is. And here you can see, for example, this is a question where you can respond to using multiple choices with the ability to provide the director a space where they can pass their own customized comments. You can put different types of questions where the answer might not be a comment or a multiple choice or a radio button. You can put it, for example, where the answer is a table or a date. So that flexibility is something that would be useful when doing a questionnaire using a tool. Next slide, please. The second part that we wanted to emphasize on is the detailed reporting, and this is really important because when you gather the information from the directors, and depending on the density of the questionnaire that you have and how many questions you have, you want to be able to get to results quite quickly. And in order to do so, you need a reporting tool within the system or within the questionnaire tool or the evaluation tool that enables you to, number one, be able to export easily and generate different types of reports. If the tool is focused towards board valuations, then you would find that the tool has already built-in features that generates reports already, standard reports that are meaningful for you. You want the tool to have added features that, for example, can calculate for you the average report, or what's the average of the board, so that you're able to see where the consensus is in the board with regards to different topics. And you want to be able to generate a visual graph that is intuitive, that makes the whoever is reading it can understand the outcome or the results quite easily. Of course, you know, when you're generating the analysis, the intuitive design is very useful, and also it should be ready for sharing and presenting, so you can easily extract that content and put it on a presentation and share it with whoever you want to share it to and present it. This is an example, for you know, of how you know, analytics that are presented in a meaningful visual format that could tell you exactly where the area of difficulty the board is facing, and from there you can induce a constructive discussion on how to address that area. The third point that we mentioned is with regards to seamless integration and archiving. So board of directors, from our experience with them, they're usually high-profile people, people that have low tolerance for time. They want to do things quite quickly, and what you would want to do is to provide them with the tool that eliminates as many hurdles as possible in front of them to be able to perform the task. Otherwise, their mind will go towards thinking of new ways that they could do it in, or their own way of doing it. And one of the things, for example, that Diligent does in order to provide this experience to the directors is, instead of providing the directors with two different systems, for example, one for receiving the content related to the board and another system for answering questionnaires, we combine those two systems into one, and there's a seamless integration between the two where the director can access any of those systems with one username and password, and then you would feel that you are within the same environment. So we found that this eliminates a lot of obstacles in having the directors respond to the questionnaires and to do the board evaluations constructively. In addition to that, you're giving the directors the ability to archive their responses for future reference, and also you're giving the organization the ability to archive the content so that you can compare year-on-year performance and how the response of the directors changes from one year to the other. So to summarize, using a technology or leveraging technology to deliver board valuations can be done in specific ways where you can use a focused tool, and when you do that, you will be able to look for specific benefits that can benefit both the people who are preparing the questionnaires and also the directors who are responding to those questionnaires. For the people who are preparing the questionnaires, just to summarize, there's look for an intuitive questionnaire interface. Look for a tool that enables you to generate custom reports in just a few clicks with the expert wizard. Look for a tool that enables you to draw from user-tested questions and answer types, including rating tables and multiple selections, for example. Gives you flexibility to design the questionnaire as you would like. Look for a tool that incorporates reference information and securely and efficiently with appendices and links to questions. This way you're able to give the director a simplified way of navigating through your questionnaire to be able to give you the answer, and you're able to give them the right insight that enables them to deliver to you an answer that is meaningful. Look for a tool that enables you to gives you insight on how you can monitor the completion status and set and change evaluation and enables you to change the evaluation date as you see necessary. Sometimes you might set a deadline and you might want to revisit that deadline. You want the tool to be able to give you that flexibility. For the directors, of course, look for a tool that enables them to complete the important compliance tasks through the familiar interfaces that they're used to. If they're using a board portal or you're using another tool, make sure that the questionnaire tool integrates with that. Give them a simplified way to access the tool so they don't have to have new software or workflows to download or to learn. Give them also a tool that seamlessly integrates with other BONK functions. We mentioned that. And of course, give them a tool where you are able to support them 24/7 so that whenever they choose to respond to the questionnaire, they'll be able to do that. And if not, they'll be able to call a number, get advice, and then complete their work. Give them also a tool that enables them to sign their responses. This would be usually useful from a corporate governance perspective. And finally, look for a tool that you can trust when it comes to security, because although you are running a questionnaire, you're addressing sensitive matters for the board, and you don't want this information to fall in the wrong hands, and you want to give the directors the assurance that their responses are confidential and they are dealt with in a secured way. Next slide. I think that's it from our side. We spoke to you about the different benefits of conducting questionnaires through Dr. Ashraf and the view from Hawkama. We also spoke to you about a perspective on how to look for the right evaluation tool if you want to do this electronically, and what sort of features and functions would be useful for you to look for. And what we would like to do now is to take some time to address your questions. So I'll hand the mic back to Vero. If you have received any questions, please go ahead.
Yes, so just a reminder, you can still ask questions at any time now through the GoToWebinar panel. But we had a few questions come in. So just one particular directed at Kais. Are there any limitations as to how many questionnaires can be set up in Diligent?
Thank you. So there aren't any limitations. You can set as many questionnaires as you want. In fact, what you can do is you can also duplicate existing questionnaires and create a replica of them if you want to put a new question, and then you can customize it and publish it. But there's no limitation absolutely whatsoever for how many questionnaires that you can do.
Okay, thank you very much. Then a question directed at Dr. Ashraf. How many times a year should we do evaluations?
Well, best practice, actually, it should be done only once a year at the end of the year. And remember, it's something which is internal self-assessment, so there is no reporting in the region required for that. It's just self-assessment tool. And however, best practice also is once every 3 years, you should get a third party to do it for you independently. So once a year is the best practice.
Okay, thank you very much. And tying in with the use of third party directed to Kais, how would this tie in with using a tool like ours or any technology solution? How would it tie in with a third party provider?
Well, that's a good question. So typically, and maybe Dr. Ashraf can comment on this as well, typically third-party providers either have their own tools or they would rely on the tools that a customer can provide them. Depending where the preference is, as long as you're able to complete the task, we see two scenarios. We see a third party can come and they can conduct their own assessment using their own tools, and they bring their own analysis, and then it gets uploaded into a board portal and shared with the directors, for example. Or alternatively, we've seen also with some of our customers, they use the board evaluation tool that we provide them, and they enable access for that third party to conduct their work using that tool. So the two options are there. I don't know if you have anything to add, Dr. Ashraf.
Well, the only thing to add is actually sometimes companies, it depends on the stage of maturity, if you like, for that board. So sometimes it's the first time for the board to do that assessment. So in this respect, we go for something simple. But sometimes the company has done this already before, so it's something which is more advanced, and they have already the software, the infrastructure, or the service provider for the the platform, if you like, and we can build on this, on improving it and asking more relevant questions and more in-depth questions that will help the board to improve their performance later on. Thank you.
And one more question would be, can we use this tool for performance management?
So this is, I don't know, if you're using it from a technology perspective, the answer is yes. You can, just like you do a self-assessment, you can do it to manage the performance of the board. You can do peer-to-peer assessment, as Dr. Ashraf mentioned. So you can set up the questionnaires whichever way you like to set up to achieve the purpose that you want. The tool enables that, but I don't know from a governance perspective on the board what are the best practices that how come I can recommend in this case, and Dr. Ashraf, maybe you can comment on that.
Yes, Veronique, actually, you should use it for this, because this is the whole objective of having this board evaluation. It's simply that you try to bench your mark against other maybe best practice or the industry or the global trends, and then you start to plan for your improvements or improving the board performance accordingly. So sometimes it covers something such as, intensity of information, for example, or the design of the information, the reports for the board, committees functioning, frequency of meetings, length of meetings, and all that stuff. So based on the assessment that we do, then we give recommendations on how the board can improve their performance later on. So this is really the key idea of having the board evaluation. And technology can be very useful, because then you can start to benchmark yourself, to compare, and then to keep the historical data for the evaluations, and then you compare yourself to yourself basically over the last few years, how the board improved based on these evaluations.
Thank you very much. Then we have another lady asking, what percentage of GCC boards are using the online technology right now? Can anybody comment on that?
Yeah, I think I saw the question and I would like to answer it. So I can only speak on behalf of, from our experience with our customers across the region. Typically what we see is around 30% of our customers are looking into deploying board evaluations today. Now, if you ask me how much was that percentage just a few months back or a year back, I would say it was far less. So we're starting to see more awareness about the topic, and we're starting to see more traction across boards. I was personally with a customer today before doing this webinar, and they immediately saw the importance of this, and when they saw that the possibilities, they said that we would like to deploy it. And this is a conversation that is common in this time. But I think also, I don't know, Dr. Ashraf, what do you see in the region?
Now, based on our own sort of work in the region, we can say it's around maybe 15 to 20% of the companies are doing board evaluations. Now, how of listed companies? That's of course of listed companies. Now, how they are doing it? It's still some of the boards still do it the old-fashioned way of the paper sort of way, which I think is not really the best idea of doing it, honestly speaking, because I mean, as Qais explained earlier, that there are a lot of advantages of doing it using the technology. One of them is the ease of access, so you don't really have to have the board people, the directors coming to the same place in the same time, keeping track of the history of the board evaluations, reporting to the board or the results after this, and so on. So there are many advantages. So despite that, we see that still companies use old-fashioned techniques, but I think there's a trend to use technology and online assessments.
Yes, I agree. The benefits are obvious. Sorry, go ahead, Vera.
Thank you. I think we're about to run out of time, so I'll just sum up with one last question, which is kind of a grouped question to both of you. So the one question for Qais would be, can we do online meeting using this platform? And the other question is online meetings legal? That was a question for Dr. Ashraf.
So maybe Dr. Ashraf, you could start with the legal position.
Now, on the legal position, the latest, I mean, I talk about the UAE now. The regulation here in the UAE says simply that board members can participate electronically in meetings, given that this is already in their Articles of Association. So the system for the company has to say that it is allowed to have this, and once that's there, then you can have the meetings virtually in that respect.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So the question was whether a tool like the Diligent tool enables board meetings to be conducted online. So the short answer is yes. However, just to clarify, online meetings require a conferencing facility or a conferencing tool that enables you to bring people either through video or voice online. For example, the tool that we are using today is called GoToMeeting, and this is basically an online meeting that we are conducting, and you're able to hear our voice, and if we choose to, we can use the camera in order to have the audience see our faces as well. So this tool does this really well, and working in conjunction with the board portal, you're able to pass the information related to the board meeting in terms of documentation and give the directors the ability to interact with it, respond to questionnaires or evaluations like we mentioned in this case, but you will also need a conferencing tool such as GoToMeeting or Skype for business or any of those interesting tools that really does that well. So the combination is what is required in order to conduct a successful board meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Then this would have been our last question for the day. If anything is still coming in, we can still get in touch with you afterwards. But for now, we would just like to give you the chance to stay in contact with us meaning Diligent. So we will run a poll in just a few seconds, and there you can let us know if you would like to already register for our next webinar, or if you would like to hear directly from us. And of course, you can also note down Qais' contact details if you'd like to do so. But now we're launching the poll. And while you're submitting your answers, if you want to, we just thank you for your attention, and we hope you found this session useful. And if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us, or also with Haukema, and or visit our websites. And that will be it from us. Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. Thank you, Qais. And wish you all a good rest of the day.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Ashraf.
Thank you. Bye.